Greetings, one and all, once again, and we are actually now into the holidays, Christmas holidays. So happy holidays, everybody. This is Exploring Arda, a Tolkien-centered podcast where I am your host, Jackson, and I go through a bunch of Tolkien's works other than Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I forgot to almost include that last one. So since it is the holidays, I actually wanted to try an attempt here to actually get through the Father Christmas letters, or letters from Father Christmas. And as you can see here, I have it in front of me the centenary edition of the book, and I thought it would be really cool to try and get through at least most of the letters. I don't know how long it'll take me for just getting through the whole thing, because I actually have never read the whole thing through. I've read a few of the letters that he's written, like the first ones, some of them in the middle, and the last one to his children that he wrote all these letters from Father Christmas. So I thought it was a really good idea for the Christmas season, because I absolutely love the Christmas season. My wife and I, we absolutely enjoy it. So I was just like, well, it'd be really fun if I included Christmas into this podcast as well, and this is like the perfect example of it. So that's pretty much what I'll be doing. Hopefully I can record and post maybe 4 times this month for December, as well as finishing off the Silmarillion and whatnot, because that's also another thing I need to keep going back on. So, but I think that's kind of like the premise of it all, and I'll be showing off the artwork. So for example, this is the beginning, there you go, I guess montage of a bunch of the artwork that he did himself, that Tolkien did. As he wrote all these letters, it also came with a bunch of illustrations, which is really cool, and it just shows how much Tolkien really loved his art. His own hobbies, I suppose. Kind of like this this podcast of mine is definitely a hobby of mine. And it says here, right here on one of the first pages, well, here comes Christmas, that astonishing thing that no commercialism can defile unless we let it. And now we're today, so you can see where that kind of ramped up, I suppose. But yeah, so I think with that kind of being said, I'm going to read the introduction to kind of like what it's all about here. You can see that there's a little image of Father Christmas right there, hastily scribbling down those letters to Tolkien's children. I think it's pretty cool. So I'll read the introduction here. So, and I hope this is a good enough thing that you guys can see the pages a little bit. All right, here we go. Introduction says, to the children of J.R.R. Tolkien, the interest and importance of Father Christmas extended beyond his filling of their stockings of Christmas Eve, for he wrote a letter to them every year, in which he described in words and pictures his house, his friends, and the events, hilarious or alarming, at the North Pole. The first of the letters appeared in 1920, when John, the eldest, was 3 years old, and for over 20 years, through the childhoods of the 3 other children, Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla, they continued to arrive each Christmas. Sometimes the envelopes, dusted with snow and bearing polar postage stamps, were found in the house on the morning after his visit. Sometimes the postman brought them, and the letters that the children wrote themselves vanished from the fireplace when no one was about. As time went on, Father Christmas's household became larger, and whereas at first little is heard of anyone else except the North Polar Bear, later on there appeared snow elves, red gnomes, snowmen, cave bears, and the polar bear's nephews, Paxu and Valkatuka. I'll say Valkatuka because it sounds kind of funny. Who came on a visit and never went away. But the polar bear remained Father Christmas's chief assistant, and the chief cause of the disasters that led to muddles and deficiencies in the Christmas stockings. And sometimes he wrote on the letters his comments in angular capitals, using a thick pen because he had a fat paw. Eventually, Father Christmas took on as his secretary an elf named Ilbereth. And in the later letters, elves play an important part in the defense of Father Christmas's house and store sellers against attacks by goblins. These attacks would often explain why it had not been possible to fill the children's stockings with what they had wished for, instead being replaced by substitutes. In this new edition of the book, produced to celebrate the centenary of the arrival of the first letter, is presented for the first time every example of Father Christmas's shaky handwriting in his letters and on the stamped envelopes which carried them, and all the pictures that he sent are here reproduced. Also included is the alphabet that the polar bear devised from the goblin drawings on the walls of the caves where he was lost, and the letter that he sent to the children written in it. Yeah, so it's there's one more paragraph, but it's basically kind of explaining everything else that is about the book. So really cool stuff. There's like reoccurring characters, and they're all fun-based. There's always like shenanigans happening going around in the North Pole. So I think with that kind of a sort of long introduction, a little bit, we'll go underway into our first letter, which was all the way in 22nd of December, 1920. And I will be continuing to kind of like showcase the artwork because I feel like that's just fitting for this. Yeah, it's a really cool parchment with like red text on it, and it's all shaky. All the words are shaky. So I thought it was pretty cool. So, first letter says here, Dear John, I heard you asked Daddy what I was like and where I lived. I have drawn me and my house for you. Take care of the picture. I am just off now for Oxford with my bundle of toys, some for you. Hope I shall arrive in time. The snow is very thick at the North Pole tonight. Your loving, Father Christmas. And of course, hold on a minute. Oh man, I know that the actual, here it is. And it's a lot of flipping back and forth, so hopefully it won't get too noisy. But this one's the image that a lot of people are familiar with. It is Father Christmas and his house. It is a very cool drawing of him, I feel like. That's what I really love about Tolkien's artwork. It's very personal. So, next one here. It's all the way into 1923, so I guess he's skipped a few years, and then he's like, maybe I should go back to it. So, this one says, on Christmas Eve of 1923. My dear John, it is very cold today, and my hand is very shaky. I am 7 years old on Christmas Day, lots older than your great-grandfather, so I can't stop the pen wobbling. But I hear that you are getting so good at reading that I expect you to be able to read my letter. I send you lots of love, and lots for Michael too, and lots bricks too, which are called that because there are lots more for you to have next year if you let me know in good time. I think they are prettier and stronger and tidier than pick-a-bricks. So I hope you will like them. Now I must go. It is a lovely fine night, and I have got hundreds of miles to go before morning. There is such a lot to do. A cold kiss from Father Nicholas Christmas. Very cool. So he's kind of like explaining that there's a lot of good things happening. And here is the kind of like the shaky handwriting that Father Christmas has, because I feel like it's because like, yeah, he has his old age, 1900 years old and plus and counting, but also because it's probably really cold in the North Pole, so it's like shaking, old and cold, and yeah, that's kind of like my thing. So, excuse me. So here is the kind of the introduction to one of the polar bears here. So this is on December 23rd of 1924, and this one says, Dear John, hope you have a happy Christmas. Only time for a short letter. My sleigh is waiting. Lots of new stockings to fill this year. Hope you will like Station and Things. A big kiss with love from Father Christmas. And you can see here a little bit of a small note here, but it still continues as it says, P.S. Father Christmas was in great hurry. Told me to put in one of his magic wishing crackers. As you pull, wish, and see if it doesn't come true. Excuse thick writing, I have a fat paw. I help Father Christmas with his packing. I live with him. I am the great polar bear. And so you can see also here, the handwriting is different. I think it's pretty cool how he does different fonts. And the little image of the bear, the great polar bear. So he's like his assistant now. So really cool stuff. On to the next one here. It also has a different one, also from 1924. This one, oh wait, sorry. This one was from 24, I believe. I'm already forgetting. Yeah, it is. Okay. So the second one is from 1924, but for Michael Hillary. I am very busy this year. No time for letter. Lots of love. Hope the engine goes well. Take care of it. A big kiss with love from Father Christmas. And, of course, there is another note, if you guys can see. Same handwriting, same thing. But this one says, P.S. Inside you will find a magic wishing cracker. Pull and wish for what you want, and see if you don't get it next Christmas. Father Christmas went off in a great hurry. So many presents, sleigh wouldn't start. I have got to post this for him at the North Pole. Do you like my writing? I have a fat paw. I am the great polar bear. So, his assistant, once again, pretty much just explaining why Father Christmas is so busy and hurry this year. So, and that's just the start of it. So, this next one is a little bit more lengthy, and hopefully I can read it the way it is. This one is literally a whole full page, but it is really cool. I still like it, and to put that much in his own squiggly handwriting must have taken forever. But it just makes it one of a kind. I just thought it was really cool. So this one says here, actually, yeah. So it says here, 1925, Cliff House, top of the world, near the North Pole, Christmas, 1925. My dear boys, I am dreadfully busy this year. It makes my hand more shaky than ever when I think of it, and not very rich. In fact, awful things have been happening, and some of the presents have got spoiled, and I haven't got the North Polar Bear to help me, and I have had to move house just before Christmas, so you can imagine what a state everything is, and you will see why I have a new address, and why I can only write one letter between you both. It all happened like this. One very windy day last November, my hood blew off and went and stuck on the top of the North Pole. I told him not to, but the North Polar Bear climbed up to the thin top to get it down, and he did. The pole broke in the middle and fell on the roof of my house, and the North Polar Bear fell through the hole it made into the dining room with my hood over his nose. And all the big pages here, and all the snow fell off the roof into the house, and melted and put out all the fires and ran down into the cellars, where I was collecting this year's presents, and the North Polar Bear's leg got broken. He is well again now, but I was so cross with him that he says he won't try to help me again. I expect his temper is hurt, and will be mended by next Christmas. I send you a picture of the accident and of my house on the cliffs above the North Pole, with beautiful cellars in the cliffs. If John can't read my old shaky writing, 1,925 years old, he must get his father to. When is Michael going to learn to read and write his own letters to me? Lots of love to you both, Christopher, whose name is rather like mine. That's all. Goodbye, Father Christmas. And I had to flip through the pages because there's a really cool. I suppose the painting is very, very cool. Once again, here you guys go. Kind of explaining how the polar bear crashed through the top of his house there, and he had to move houses there for good old Father Christmas. Very cool stuff. I really like the moon in the background with the face. It's really cool, and he has his own sleigh. Very cool. So the polar bear tried to get the Santa's hat. Oh, sorry, Father Christmas's hat. Forget he never really says Santa. He just says Father Christmas. Yeah, he pretty much crashes into his house and ruins everything. Bottom line. So, we shall go now into the next year, which is another full page note here, which is fine because, yeah, just more of the story just keeps on building. So, I kind of like that. So, here it is. 1926. Same address here. Says Cliff House, top of the world, near the North Pole, Monday, December 20th, 1926. My dear boys, I am more shaky than usual this year. North Polar Bear's fault. It was the biggest bang in the world, and the most monstrous firework there has ever been. It turned the North Pole black and shook all the stars out of place, broke the moon into 4, and the man in it fell into my back garden. He ate quite a lot of my Christmas chocolates before he said he felt better, and climbed back to mend it and get the stars tidy. Then I found out that the reindeer had broken loose. They were running all over the country, breaking reins and ropes and tossing presents up in the air. They were all packed up to start, you see. Yes, it only happened this morning. It was a sleigh load of chocolate things, which I always send to England early. I hope yours are not badly damaged. But isn't the North Polar Bear silly? And he isn't a bit sorry. Of course he did it. You remember I had to move last year. Hold on. Because of him. The tap for turning on the Rory Borealis. That's kind of funny, actually. Because he kind of spells it funnily. Rory Borealis. Fireworks is still in the cellar of my old house. The North Polar Bear knew he must never touch it. I only let it off on special days like Christmas. He says he thought it was cut off since we moved. Anyway, he was nosing around the ruins this morning soon after breakfast. He hides things to eat there. And turned on all the northern lights for 2 years in one go. You have never heard or seen anything like it. I have tried to draw a picture of it, but I am too shaky to do it properly, and you can't paint fizzing lights, can you? I think the polar bear has spoilt the picture, rather. Of course he can't draw with those great fat paws. Rude. I can, and write without shaking. By going and putting a bit, because there's like a little note in the, a little note in the letter, and I'll show you guys, that's why. By going and putting a bit of his own in it in the middle about me, chasing the reindeer and him laughing. He did laugh too. So did I, when I saw him trying to draw the reindeer and inking his nice white paws. Note here says, Father Christmas had to hurry away and leave me to finish. He is old and gets worried when funny things happen. You would have laughed too. I think it is good of me laughing. It was a lovely firework. The reindeer will run quick to England this year. They are still frightened. I must go and help pack. I don't know what Father Christmas would do without me. He always forgets what a lot of packing I do for him. The snowman is addressing our envelopes this year. He is Father Christmas's gardener, but we don't get much but snowdrops and frost ferns to grow here. He always writes in white, just with his finger. A Merry Christmas to you from North Polar Bear. And then ending with, and love from Father Christmas to you all. Oh. Doesn't say that, but I just had to add it. So here is the enormous firework that the polar bear let loose accidentally, maybe accidentally, who knows. He's a very nosy bear, so a very cool painting by Tolkien himself. And of course the writing is mostly in that big bold red writing because of the polar bear, so that's kind of like what that shows. But yeah, so now we get more involved with the situations that happen in the North Pole around Father Christmas's house, and sometimes why he's delayed, which is kind of funny. I really love this narrative of the story that the polar bear just keeps getting into no good, pretty much that. So I think for these episodes I'll try to read at least like the 5-year gaps in between each of them. So like it starts from 1920 and it goes to 1925, but like since he skipped up to 23, I'm going to read up till the 1928. And I think I'm just going to do that for each episode, and hopefully I'll get enough, because it is a big book, but we'll see how everything works out. So a little bit of a tangent there, a little bit of a thing that I had to think of like how long it would take to read. So back to Christmas stories and whatnot. So here it is, 1927. Cliff House, top of the world, near the North Pole, Wednesday, December 21st, 1927. My dear people, there seem to get more and more of you every year. I get poorer and poorer. Still, I hope that I have managed to bring you all something you wanted, though not everything you asked for, Michael and Christopher. I haven't heard from John this year. I suppose he is growing too big and won't even hang up his stocking soon. It has been so bitter at the North Pole lately that the North Polar Bear, you know who I mean, has spent most of the time asleep and has been less use than usual this Christmas. And her note here says, of course you don't. And everybody does sleep most of the time here in winter, especially Father Christmas. And it goes back to him. The North Pole became colder than any cold thing ever has been, and when the North Polar Bear put his nose against it, it took the skin off. Now it is bandaged with red flannel. Why did he? I don't know, but he is always putting his nose where it ought to be. Into my cupboards, for instance. No, it says, that's because I am hungry. And goes back to him again. Also, it has been very dark here since winter began. We haven't seen the sun, of course, for 3 months. but there are no northern lights this year. You remember the awful accident last year. There will be none again until the end of 1928. The North Polar Bear has got his cousin and distant friend, the Great Bear, to shine extra bright for us, and this week I have hired a comet to do my packing by, but it doesn't work as well. You can see that by my picture. The North Polar Bear has not really been any more sensible this year. Another note says, I have been perfectly sensible and have learned to write with a pen in my mouth instead of a paintbrush. And it goes back again. Yesterday he was snowballing the snowman in the garden and pushed him over the edge of the cliff so that he fell into my sleigh at the bottom and broke lots of things. One of them was himself. I used what was left of him to paint my white picture. We shall have to make ourselves a new gardener when we are less busy. The man in the moon paid me a visit the other day, a fortnight ago exactly. He often does about this time, as he gets lonely in the moon, and we make him a nice little pudding, however you say it. He is so fond of things with plums in. His fingers were cold as usual, and the North Polar Bear made him play snapdragons to warm them. Of course, he burnt them, and then he licked them, and then he liked the brandy, and then the bear gave him lots more, and he went fast asleep on the sofa. Then I went down to the cellars to make crackers, and he rolled off the sofa, and the wicked bear pushed him underneath and forgot all about him. He can never be away a whole night from the moon, but he was this time. And another note says here, I have never been expected to look after the man in the moon before. I was very nice to him, and he was very comfy under the sofa. And it goes back here again. Suddenly the snowman, he wasn't broken then, rushed in out of the garden, next day just after tea time, and said the moon was going out. The dragons had come out and were making an awful smoke and smother. We rolled him out and shook him, and he simply whizzed back, but it was ages before he got things quite cleared up. I believe he had to let loose one of his simply, terrificalist, not a word, freezing magics before he could drive the dragons back into their holes, and that is why he has got so cold down here. The polar bear only laughs when I tell him it's his fault, but he curls up on my hearthrug and won't do anything but snore. My messengers told me that you have somebody from Iceland staying with you. That is not so far from where I live, and nearly as cold. People don't hang up stockings there, and I usually pass by in a hurry, though I sometimes pop down and leave a thing or two for their very jolly Christmas trees. My usual way is down through Norway, Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, and then back through Germany, northern France, Belgium, and so into England. And on the way home, I pass over the sea, and sometimes Iceland and I can see the twinkling lights faint in the valleys under the mountains. But I go by quick, as my reindeer gallop as hard as they can there. They always say they are frightened a volcano or a geyser will go off underneath them. This will be all. I have written you a very long letter this year, as there was nothing to draw but dark and snow and stars. Love to you all and happiness next year. Your loving Father Christmas. And it actually kind of was a long one. Not gonna lie here. So, I have to go back, flip through the book so that you guys can see all of the wonderful pictures that he sends to them. So, the first one is another one of those long letters, I suppose. And I suppose this is the good one that he had to paint his picture in the night because of the Northern Lights not being there for that year. So I thought that was kind of a clever little thing there. So why the night was so dark on that year. So I suppose that was the one that I should show you, because the other ones are like the other ones where they're the long parchment with the red scribble handwriting. So I don't have to show you every single time. You guys know exactly what it's about. So yeah, that's pretty much why the North Pole was so dark that year, was because of the accidental Northern Lights going off the year before. And so now we'll go into 1928, which will be the last story, at least for like this episode, and then I'll continue doing the same process for the rest of them, and hope I get through it. So here we go. 1928, yes. Top of the world, North Pole, Thursday, December 20th, 1928. My dear boys, another Christmas and I am another year older, and so are you. I feel quite well all the same. Very nice of Michael to ask, and not quite so shaky. But that is because we have got all the lighting and heating right again after the cold dark year we had in 1927. You remember about it? And I expect you remember whose fault it was? What do you think the poor dear old bear has been and done this time? Nothing as bad as letting off all the lights. Only fell from top to bottom of the main stairs on Thursday. And the note says, who left the soap on the stairs? Not me. And it goes back here. We were beginning to get the first lot of parcels down out of the storerooms into the hall. Polar Bear would insist on taking an enormous pile on his head, as well as lots in his arms. Bang, rumble, clatter, crash. Awful moanings and growlings. I ran out to the landing and saw that he had fallen from top to bottom onto his nose, leaving a trail of balls, bundles, parcels, and things all the way down, and he had fallen on top of some and smashed them. I hope you got none of these things by accident. I have drawn you a picture of it all. Polar Bear was rather grumpy at my drawing of it. Note says, of course, naturally. He says my Christmas pictures always make fun of him, and that one year he will send one drawn by himself of me being idiotic. But of course I never am, and he can't draw well enough. And it says, yes I can. I drew flag at end. Goes back. He joggled my arm and spoilt the little picture at the bottom of the moon laughing, and Polar Bear shaking his fist at it. When he had picked himself up, he ran out of doors, and wouldn't help clear up because I sat on the stairs and laughed as soon as I found there was not much damage done, which is why the moon smiled. But the part showing Polar Bear angry was cut off because he smudged it. But anyway, I thought you would like a picture of the inside of my new big house for a change. The chief hall is under the largest dome, where we pile the presents usually ready to load on the sleighs at the doors. Polar Bear and I built it nearly all ourselves, and laid all the blue and mauve tiles. The banisters and roof are not quite straight. And it says here again, not my fault. Father Christmas did the banisters. It goes back. But it doesn't really matter. I painted the pictures on the walls of the trees and stars and suns and moons. Then I said to Polar Bear, I shall leave the frieze, F-R-I-E-Z-E, to you. He said, I should have thought there was enough frieze outside, and your colors inside, all purpley, grayy, bluey, pale, greeny, are cold enough too. Sorry again. I said, don't be a silly bear, do your best. There's a good old Polar. And what a result. Icicles all around the hall to make a frieze, F-R-E-E-Z-E. He can't spell very well. And fearful bright color to make a warm frieze. Well, my dears, I hope you will like the things I am bringing. Nearly all of you asked for, and lots of other little things you didn't, and which I thought of at the last minute. I hope you will share the railway things and farm and animals often, and not think they are absolutely only for the one whose stocking they were in. Take care of them, for they are some of my very best things. Love to Chris, love to Michael, love to John, who must be getting very big, as he doesn't write to me anymore, so I simply had to guess paints. I hope they were all right. Polar Bear chose them. He says he knows what John likes, because John likes bears. And your loving Father Christmas, and my love, Polar Bear. And it also says, little extra thing, Boxing Day, 1928, yes. I'm frightfully sorry. I gave this to the Polar Bear to post and he forgot all about it. We found it on the hall table today. But you must forgive him. He has worked very hard for me and is dreadfully tired. We have had a busy Christmas. Very windy here. It blew several sleighs over before they could start. Love again, Father Christmas. And I think that is the last one for 1928. Yeah, so there is quite a bit that is read and included. The story continues to become further, and obviously the letter is usually how it is. Man, hopefully I'll do better next one. But this one is the one that the polar bear is crashing down the stairs. There you go. And that is why Father Christmas was laughing so hard, because he literally just trips and all the stuff falls on him. So got a good little laugh there, just haha. But other than that, I think that is good enough to start the progress into the letters from Father Christmas. I always want to say that it is the Father Christmas letters, just because that's the way it's listed. Like, a lot of the Tolkien books have all of his works, listed, the ones that he posted, published before and after his death. So, but this one is the beginnings, yes, the beginnings of the Letters from Father Christmas, and I've very much enjoyed it so far. I hope you guys can enjoy it as much as I do, because I just thought it was a good idea because it's Christmas time and I love Christmas, so it's perfect. So let me know if I did at least a decent job, but either way, I'm still going to continue because it is my personal project, and I just love doing this. It's just one of my hobbies, so I definitely enjoy it, and I thought it would be a good idea for Christmas time. So hopefully I can either finish in the next maybe 2 or 3 episodes of these letters from Father Christmas. So I think with all that being said, just stay tuned for the next episode. And may the light of Elbereth be with you all. Farewell.